of my favorite people and tradeswomen, Delaney Krieger from the Carpenters Union. Thank you so much for joining me, Delaney.
Thank you for having me. I'm super pumped.
I know you're always pumped, and that's why I just love talking to you all the time. So, Delaney and I met actually this year for the first time, or last year for the first time, even though you've been to Build a Dream events a few times while you were in high
Yep.
school. And I learned about how you got into the trade and how you met the Carpenters Union and Sean Rainey at the time, and decided to become a carpenter. So for those that don't know, Delaney Krieger is a carpenter with the Carpenters Union, and the Carpenters Union is one of our largest sponsors at Build a Dream and has been a huge supporter of the work that we've been doing since day one. And before we get started, I just want to give a shout out to Sean and Brandon, who have played such an instrumental role in supporting our organization and supporting more women getting into the construction industry. And it was really great to speak to Sean and Brandon about the impact that Build a Dream has had on the industry simply in Windsor, going from 1 female on the job site to 10 females on the job site. So it's great that I get the chance to speak to you. So, and we were just talking before we went live about you continuously working during COVID-19 because construction is deemed an essential service. And even though with the new changes that the government announced today in construction, you are still deemed an essential service. So why don't you tell us a little bit more about what you've been doing on the job site, and then go into why you decided to become a carpenter.
So in the past, I'd say since mid-February, I've actually been on the same job site, which is pretty rare. I'm usually bounced around between crews, different job sites, kind of help out wherever's needed. But with the rise of COVID-19, they're trying to keep crews kind of selective, so we don't have as much cross-contamination, if you will. So I've been at the same job site. We're actually building condos in the downtown area right on Olette. Since February, I've done kind of just anything that they can throw at me. So when I first started, we were doing what's called blue skin, which is basically it seals like cracks or whatever in the physical frame. And then once we finished that, I started doing brick ties, which are just kind of like little hooks that you tie the brick into to the building so it kind of has more stability. So I installed a bunch of brick ties. After that, we started installing what's called strapping. So it's essentially what we did was we put foam on the outside of the exterior walls, and you put foam on, and then you put a 1x3 on, and that will be what we attach our siding to. So when we do get to the point where we put siding on the building, we're going to attach the siding to this 1x3. And then after I did all that, which was quite a bit of work, we started working on, now we're kind of moving into like fireproofing the top floor. We're starting at top floor. So essentially fireproofing is each type of drywall has a different fire rating to it. In a specific project, it's 2-hour fire rating. So we have to do a double layer of 5/8 drywall. A job that I've been doing recently is fire taping. So within the first, like on the first layer, it gets covered anyway. So it doesn't really have to be too pretty, which is good because I don't have a lot of practice fire taping. So it's essentially just sealing those joints so that, the fire can't get through. It keeps it structurally as much as possible. And yeah, it's pretty cool.
I just love listening to your stories about a day in the life of Delaney, and it's really, really fascinating. And I didn't know up until we just started chatting that you originally wanted to be a journalist. You wanted to go into journalism at the University of Windsor, and then you decided to become a carpenter. Like, I mean, you're really well spoken, and I just love having you speak in front of other young women because you're really inspiring. But how did you decide to do the change in career choice, and how do you feel now that you are in the construction industry?
Truthfully, I think going into journalism would have been the biggest mistake of my life. Now that I've realized how good of a fit I am in the construction industry, what really helped me, like I didn't really put myself into the situation until later on in my high school, grade 11, grade 12, where I kind of started seriously looking into the trades. But until then, I was dead set on university. And what kind of helped me switch my focus was I pictured what I want to do every single day. I kind of put myself in a place and I was like, every day I'm going to wake up and what am I going to do? So traditionally, journalism, it's, I would wake up and go behind a desk all day. And that's not something I wanted to do. Yes, I did like, gathering information, talking to other people. That was one of my really big strong suits. But in saying that, behind a desk would honestly kill me. So I had to kind of look outside of the box and see what I envisioned my day to be. And I looked at it and I said, I love to be outside. I love doing something different every day. I like kind of being put in any situation and just kind of figuring it out, which is what the construction industry has allowed me to previously said, since mid-February, I have done, a variety of different tasks, and every single day I go, it's something different and it's something new. So, kind of having that variety mixed with also I'm allowed to be outside. I'm active. I'm always kind of moving around. I'm not ever stuck in one place. It just fits so well. So that's something that I definitely encourage young women to kind of, and anybody really, to just kind of put yourself in a situation of I'm going to wake up and do what. And that's kind of what really helped me fit into this career.
So it's really amazing in terms of the shift that you made, and then really having that reflection, and then being able to make the decision at such a young age and be very proud and certain of that decision that you made. And I think it was really fascinating when we met at the Build a Dream event in November, and you shared with me the financial freedom that the construction trade has provided you, the financial independence and your ability to buy your own vehicle simply from working on the job site for a year, and then comparing it to your friends who went to post-secondary who have paid a significant amount and are currently in student debt. You don't have that same financial burden put on you. So tell us a little bit more about the financial advantage of considering a skilled trade.
So that was also a huge, huge advantage that kind of definitely did push me in this direction as well. The way, truthfully, I look at it is, well, right now in this situation, at the time I was just graduating high school, I kind of looked at it and I am not financially able to go put myself through university right now. I had worked part-time through high school, many other students did. And, I would have to rely on a lot of grants and loans and etc. So when I looked at the trades, I thought, well, for the next 4 years or so, I'll make money. And then if it's not for me, then at that point, I'll have made enough money and I can go to university. I could go to college. It was kind of a buffer point for me. And then obviously I got into it and fell in love. And this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. But having that financial freedom at such a young age is kind of daunting at first because, I'm 20 years old now. I pay like a lot of bills, which is really stressful, but it's awesome that, when it was October, it would have been, I had been working in the trade since about July. And my old car broke down, my car that I, kind of paid for through a part-time job in high school, as so many other people do. And upon looking for a new car, I realized I don't have to settle. I don't have to get the crappy thing on the side of the road for $2,000 and out the door. I have the financial ability to get a bigger loan out, and that kind of really hit me that, oh my gosh, I have so many, there's so many doors open for me. I was able to get a bigger, because I do have steady employment. I do have a steady income. And with that loan, I was able to buy a truck that I'm absolutely in love with. If you ask anybody, it's like the love of my life. But yeah, so kind of having that financial freedom was huge at this age. Instead of just having to settle for whatever I could afford, I can choose to make big financial decisions.
I love it. And a question just came in from someone that's tuning in, actually Maria, who works at Build a Dream. How do your friends react when they see the difference that the trades made in your life situation, aka the independence it provided you?
Honestly, it is a huge contrast. So like I said, I'm 20 years old. the majority of my friends are, you know, either first, second year of post-secondary education. A lot of them have expressed to me, oh my gosh, you're getting paid to learn. Because the way I see it is every single day that I show up to a job site, I'm learning. I have training. I'm constantly learning every single day. And the fact that I'm getting paid to do it is like kind of unheard of. You know, you wouldn't get paid to go to college. You wouldn't get paid to go to university. And so kind of seeing that is just mind blowing to a lot of people. But on top of that too, it's a lot of young people definitely struggle with student debt and, you know, the cost of university, the cost of college. And so for them to be like, oh my gosh, you didn't have to settle for a, you know, $2,000 car on the side of the road. Like it's kind of huge. They're like, oh my gosh, maybe I should get into that. And it's one of those things where people aren't really aware of the opportunities that you have, the money that you can make almost instantly, you know, right out of high school. It was definitely eye-opening for a lot of them as well, saying, that sounds like a good idea, you know? Obviously, if you're set on something that does require college or university, you are kind of stuck with college or university. But if you're in a situation where you kind of just don't really know what you want to do and you're kind of just taking a college course hoping that it'll fit and you'll like it, honestly, my advice would go trades first, because might as well.
Well, you mentioned something that's really important, and I know this is something that you really wanted to highlight during our conversation today, and it's the apprenticeship pathway, because you talked about earn while you learn, and that you're not taking on all this debt to learn a trade. But for those that aren't really familiar with the apprenticeship pathway or how it works, can you break it down in simple terms so that those that are tuning in or those that are unsure of what they want to do and may consider an apprenticeship pathway, what steps do they need to take? And how did you get introduced to the Carpenters Union so that you could start your apprenticeship?
Well, I'm going to start off by saying I was introduced to the Carpenters Union through Build a Dream. You know, I was able to connect with Brandon and Sean and discuss it. And they kind of put me on this path of saying, because I was also pretty torn between, I know St. Clair College and other colleges, they offer trades courses. And do I have to take one of those before I get into an apprenticeship? Like, kind of what's the pathway there? And essentially, I'm going to speak to my apprenticeship personally, but all apprenticeships kind of the same model. In my apprenticeship right now, it's general carpentry. So it's a 7,200-hour apprenticeship. So it's essentially about 4 years of work, which is pretty standard. And any post-secondary college is usually around 2 years, but university is usually around 4. So it's about the same amount of time. So 7,200 hours, it's broken down 1,800-hour levels. So your first level, which I'm currently in, I think I'm probably around the 1,300, maybe 1,400-hour range. So it's basically you just work for 1,800 hours. And that's all you do is you just thrown onto a job site and just work, soak up I honestly treat it as like I go to work as a sponge and I just every single thing. And then when you level up, so when you hit your 1,800 hours, what's really cool with Carpenters Union is you get a raise. So it's based very clear cut out what your wages will be for the next 4 years. So you get a raise at 1,800 hours, and then you're in level 2. Now with level 2, you have trade school 1 to complete. You have 1,800 hours as well before you can level up. So it's the 1,800 hours plus trade school plus required courses. So what we have for required courses, not exactly sure on the specific ones, but like power elevated work platforms. So that's like a scissor lift license and stuff like that. I know that we have like advanced forms, which is learning how to build concrete forms, stuff like that. They're offered through the union hall. It's usually weekend courses, usually 1 or 2 weekends, if that, for your certification there. So you have that training. And then Trade School 1, which I briefly mentioned, I believe it's either 6 or 8 week course at St. Clair College where you're in school. So essentially you're laid off for that period of time. So you don't go to work at all. And you have a traditional college school schedule, essentially. The cost of tuition is not even comparable to the regular cost of tuition for college. And what's cool about the Carpenters Union is they also reimburse you for everything after you pass trade school. So essentially that would be your trade school 2, or your level 2 of your apprenticeship is Trade School 1, 1,800 hours plus these courses. And it's the same thing for Trade School 3 or level 3 and level 4. And then once you finish all of that through level 4, then you write we call it the 𝗂𝑐E of Q, which is your certification of qualification, I think. And it's basically your Red Seal trade ticket. And once you write your Red Seal trade ticket, you need 70% to pass. So I believe it's 100 questions. You need to get 70 of them right. And what that gives you is your journeyman. And you're a fully licensed carpenter at that point.
You did such a great job describing the apprenticeship pathway, so kudos to you. So I do have a question, because you did mention Red Seal trade. What does that mean for those that are tuning in?
So Red Seal trade is essentially, it's kind of, I compare it personally to, your medical license, when you write, like lawyers write a bar exam. That is essentially what this 𝗂𝑐E of Q test is for tradespeople like me. And when you get your Red Seal anywhere, your Red Seal is, I am a licensed carpenter, and you cannot take that away from me. And that's what I'm working towards. That's my ultimate goal. And when it happens, I'll be so excited.
And it's going to happen. I'm definitely going to celebrate that success with you, which I'm sure everyone at the Carpenters Union is going to do the same. But you are correct. The Red Seal trade takes you anywhere. If it wasn't a Red Seal trade, other trades are provincially regulated, where the Red Seal trade ticket allows you to work anywhere in Canada, which provides you so many opportunities for you to explore different provinces and different communities. So that's absolutely amazing. How come you didn't take the Ontario Youth Apprenticeship Program in high school? I know you talked about kind of thinking your career pathway in grade 11, but my understanding is that you could have taken 𝗬𝑗𝑎𝑝 in grade 11, but that would have meant you would have had to take the co-op pathway in grade 10. So tell me why you didn't consider 𝗬𝑗𝑎𝑝, and what advice do you have for students that are currently in high school and thinking about exploring the trade?
So truthfully, I am just extremely stubborn. And I kind of was in grade 9, grade 10, 11. And I was just so set on my career path of going to university. I kind of blocked out any other possibility, which looking back, I totally regret doing. But in saying that, you live and you learn. But I honestly blocked it out entirely. I did not even allow myself to picture myself in that situation, which obviously kind of sucks. But for my advice, honestly, like I said, what kind of changed my mind was what I want to do every single day for the rest of my life. And my biggest advice would be, do that when you're in grade 9, do that when you're in grade 10, picture where you want to be. And when you take that picture, then apply it. And if 𝗬𝑗𝑎𝑝 fits through it, 100% take it. Like it's one of those things where if it's available to you and that's what you want to follow, honestly, just do it. Just do it.
It's great advice. I mean, we all kind of have something set in our mind at a really early age, actually, of what we want to be when we grow up. And it's really difficult to make that change, and especially when you have so much influence from family, from school, from community about what pathway you should pursue. So I definitely understand the stubbornness piece, but I do. One of the things that we often encourage at Build a Dream, the Ontario Youth Apprenticeship Program is a perfect gateway to just exploring these options risk-free, because ultimately you get a chance to visit a job site, whether it's in manufacturing or construction or any of the trades, test it out for a semester. And the worst thing that could happen is you don't like it and you go back into the classroom and continue on your other career path. But that way you didn't waste money or time exploring a career path. And in certain cases, the Ontario Youth Apprenticeship Program allows you to start getting your hours as early as high school, and you could complete your level 1 once you graduate. So it's okay that you didn't do that while you were in high school. Now you're a strong voice for youth and encouraging them to potentially consider that as a pathway. Delaney, honestly, every time I talk to you, I get really excited about the work that Build a Dream does. And it reminds me the importance it is for us to really showcase role models like you, because you can't be what you can't see. And if young women are going to picture themselves in these roles, they have to hear stories like yours to be inspired and to be like, if Delaney could do it, I can do it. And I often feel that when I talk to you as well. I'm like, I wish I would have taken construction and I could work around the home. But my time, I don't know if my time has passed. I'll probably take on that hobby once I'm done my master's. But I was so impressed with you when we did the announcement with our funding, and you spoke with Minister 𝗵𝗃, the Minister of Labor for the federal government. And she was so impressed with you that she asked for a follow-up call. Tell me a little bit more about that conversation and the platform that you feel you have for other women in the industry now.
So basically that conversation was just talking about the importance of, yes, getting young women into the trades is huge. It's, there's a shortage of tradespeople everywhere. Why are we only encouraging 50% of the population to pursue these industries? That we should definitely push for more women in trades. But it's also, the industry is still so male dominated that there are certain barriers that you do have to overcome as a female in the industry. So I feel like getting women into the trades is one thing, but keeping them into the trades is also a conversation that's equally as important. So that conversation followed connecting other women in the trades. There are so few of us, but I mean, we do exist. And kind of starting that conversation and definitely connecting with other women in the trades about things that they experience as well. A lot of times if you experience a hardship or whatever it is, you feel so alone because you're like, I am the only female on a job site half the time. I am the only one feeling this way. And connecting with other women in the trades, especially if it was something over like something so little, like a lot of like work stores that sell like work clothing. If you go to the women's section, it's like scrubs. And if you go to the men's section, it's like, your safety vest, your high-vis, your work pants, your pants, all of that. And so little things like that, like I have to order all of my work clothes online because most stores don't carry women's construction work attire. So little things like that where it's just like small hurdles that you have to put up with, kind of connecting with other women and just saying, oh my gosh, you deal with that too, is a huge experience, honestly. Kind of, a lot of women talk about having to feeling like they have to prove themselves twice as much, how they have to kind of prove their strength in the industry, which is definitely something that I've had to come across. Kind of, if a male counterpart is carrying 2 buckets of screws, I have to carry 2 buckets of screws, kind of thing. I have to try for 3. But one of those things where if I connect with another woman who's like, oh my gosh, I totally feel the same way, it validates and it kind of gives me the peace of mind, like, okay, I'm not the only one. I'm not crazy. This is a thing that happens. And definitely I feel like the more women we introduce into the trades, the more that's going to shift. So it's definitely a double-edged kind of situation where the more women we get into the trades, the better off we're going to be. And, maybe bigger stores will carry women's construction clothes in the future, but it's going to be a matter of the more women we get in, the more we change the industry. But the more women we keep in, we're also going to change the industry. So, yeah.
Definitely. And you touched on all the work that we are encouraging companies, unions, and school boards to take on, because it's not just about attracting young women into the industry. It's about retaining them, but also helping them advance into leadership positions so that they're able to bring that gendered lens to the decisions that are being made. But two comments I want to make. One, there's this great partner of ours called Cover Gals, and they have female workwear, which I'm sure you probably heard of them.
Yep.
I want to connect you to them because you would be such a great role model and to be featured with some of their gear. And secondly, they work with a lot of women on job sites across Canada. So it would be a great connection for you. So I'm going to make that connection offline. And then yesterday I was talking to Crystal, who owns Meadowbrook Renovations. Yep. She's also a carpenter, which I think you might have met her. And she was talking about the same thing. So I just want to validate some of the feelings that you're having in terms of having to work twice as hard, or being taken as seriously on the job site, or feeling like if there's something heavy, that just because you're a female, you can also pick up that heavy item without people questioning your strength or your ability. So, and I do agree, the more women we bring onto these sites, the more women we bring onto these industry, the more we'll break down some of these stereotypes that are out there and make it more of a norm for both men and women to succeed in the industry. But what do you feel, in your opinion, the Carpenters Union is doing right to attract women into the industry?
Honestly, the fact that through Build a Dream, they're such a big supporter of Build a Dream, is unbelievable. I remember, so obviously, like I said, I connected with them, it would have been 2 years ago now, and I've discussed how I get into this and all that. And then this past year in November, I believe it was, I was actually able to speak on behalf of the Carpenters Union to other women. And honestly, there were a few young women out there who I made a really good connection with. And I hope that in the next few years when they graduate, they'll seriously consider joining as well. Kind of getting the word out there. I know we've kind of grown exponentially in the past few years. I believe Sean was saying that we only had like 2 women like about a year ago, and now we're up to about 10 or 11. We have about 625-ish members. So, you know, obviously 10 or 11 out of 625 doesn't seem like much, but when you're coming from just 2, it's amazing growth. And I definitely think that the union is doing a great example, or doing a great job of setting that kind of, hey, we accept women too. This is a thing that happens. And it's great to just get out there and kind of let young women explore this job.
It makes me emotional when you talk about this experience. And I had to tell you why, because one of the things that I've been finding, and I'm very fortunate in working in Build a Dream and meeting young women like yourselves, is how many of you actually end up paying it forward. And probably one of the biggest highlights of leading Build a Dream is seeing the women come back and encouraging more women to come into the industry. And everyone is doing that. So every woman that gets into the industry through Build a Dream either comes back and sits on our panel, or comes with their employer to attract more young women and to be role models and to be a strong voice for the industry. And the Carpenters Union has played such a pivotal role. Like, I'm sure, I don't know if Sean has joked around with you about it, but I often joke around. I have Sean on speed dial and never shy away from asking him for help or money or support. It's a joke in the office because my team is always like, "You're really going to ask him for more?" And I'm like, "What's the worst that can happen?" He says no, which often he doesn't. And then it's a win-win situation, because then there's young women like yourselves that are not only succeeding within the construction industry that is experiencing a shortage, but you're advocating for more people to get into the industry. And you're so passionate about it. And anyone that hears your story is so inspired by it, including myself, and I can hear it over and over again and never get bored of it. So some of the cool things that Delaney's working on, and I highly encourage you follow her on Instagram, if that's okay, Delaney. But she's going to be launching her own Instagram page. It's coming soon, so just bear with us. But she's going to talk about her day in the life on construction sites and what it's like being a carpenter. And I highly recommend you give her a follow, because I'm sure you've seen from today, she is so passionate about her career and has such a great way of connecting with her audience. Delaney has not only attended our events and come back and shared her career journey with young women in 2019, but since then she's sat on some of our panels, did some of our workshops with us where she was assisting other youth in considering the skilled trades. She's going to be on a podcast with me, on our Dare to Dream podcast, and then she's starting her own Instagram page, and she's going to be traveling across Canada with us, hopefully once COVID-19 is solved. The sooner the better for everybody. Yeah. But speaking of COVID-19, in your position with the Carpenters Union and construction being deemed essential, tell me a little bit more about the how the Carpenters Union and the construction industry is responding to COVID-19, and how do you feel about working during this time?
So it's definitely kind of shifted the entire workplace in just a matter of a few weeks, which is kind of mind-blowing and cool to kind of look back and just see the huge transition that we've made. Something that the Carpenters Union is doing a lot of is putting things out there if you don't feel safe on your job site, because a lot of our members were on all types of different job sites all around, Windsor and Essex County. So it's kind of hard to pinpoint and say who's safe where. So it's kind of getting the word out, like if you feel unsafe, walk off. Walk off. Your safety is number one. And that's kind of across the board been the situation. Of older members, for example, or if they have pre-existing health conditions like asthma, diabetes, whatever it is, if they feel unsafe on a job site, they are, if they have an immune-compromised wife or an immune-compromised child or whatever it is, if somebody that they're living with is more at risk, it's kind of said that you will have a job once all this blows over. You're not going to lose employment over this. We are going to support you in every way we can. What your main priority is staying safe for you and your family. So kind of having that peace of mind is really, really beneficial, because I know at the end of the day, when all this blows over, I still have a job, which is really good to kind of, not, have to worry about that. So the kind of shifts we made on job sites. So we've installed hand sanitizer dispensed kind of everywhere throughout. We actually set up a hand washing station. So we are able, on a lot of job sites, there's no running water. There's rarely electricity. It's very, kind of hard to have access to clean facilities. So setting up the hand sanitizer and setting up the hand washing stations has been huge. And, it's kind of being mindful of, okay, I'm touching different things now, go wash my hands, that sort of thing. It's definitely been difficult. The hardest thing I'd say is the social distancing. It's recommended that you're supposed to stay 6 feet apart. Obviously in construction, a lot of times you're put in a situation where you cannot do it. And so knowing that we're taking all the precautions to kind of avoid that, really reassuring. Like I said, one of the precautions we're taking is we're only working with the same people every day, which is, kind of minimizing that risk and minimizing the exposure to other people. But also, I've noticed if somebody's one room that I have to do work in, I will go find work in another room, kind of keep that distance. It happens. We do pass each other in hallways and stuff. But everyone has definitely become a lot more mindful. And at the end of the day, we all want to go home safe and happy and healthy. So that's kind of taken priority. It is really interesting to be in the industry right now, seeing this huge problem and seeing how everyone's reacting to kind of solve it. That was one of the main reasons why I got into the trades. I love seeing problems and just solving them. So seeing how different levels of, between the government and between employers and between workers and whatnot, how everyone is responding differently. It's definitely interesting to see. And as of right now, I'm super thankful to still be working. Honestly, I feel like if I didn't have a job to go to, I would probably lose my mind. This is kind of my pride and joy. So staying at home would kill me. But I know that I'm taking every precaution that I can. And I know that everyone around me is taking every precaution they can. So as long as we're able to safely work, we are going to continue. And I'm looking forward to it.
It's really good to hear the common practice that the industry is taking to make sure that their workers are safe, and also to give people that peace of mind to say, if they don't feel safe on the job site, that they can leave the job site for the time being and then still be have their job saved at a late, once this is all over. And it's also really promising to hear that the industry is, especially it being an essential service, is still employing, because I think one of the things that even as an organization we're struggling with is how many people are going on unemployment or have been laid off and are facing some really financial struggles right now, and the role that we play as an organization to help support them through this difficult time. And we recently launched a survey. So for those that are tuning in, we do have a survey right now live on our Facebook where we're asking the community what supports could we provide as an organization to support those that are unemployed or that are struggling or that need food possibly delivered or whatnot. Because like you said, I think right now what we're seeing is communities come together and industries come together to help solve and support individuals in trying to ease the burden and ease the stress of individuals being caused by COVID-19. So people in construction, people in the grocery store, people in the medical field are putting their lives at risk on a day-to-day basis. And first off, I just want to thank everyone for doing that. And as someone who has the ability and opportunity to stay at home and be safe in the home, I encourage everyone that needs to do that to practice that, because the more we can practice social distancing and listen to our leaders and the government expectations, the sooner we'll be out of this crisis, and the less burden and hardship and stress we're going to put on our healthcare system that is so heavily dependent on people's social distancing. So I'm one of those people, along with my husband, that get to work remotely. My entire team works remotely, and we don't leave the house unless it's necessary. And to be quite honest, we don't really find any much necessary reasons to leave the house unless it's for groceries. So knowing that the essential services that are remaining open are practicing social distancing, have hand sanitizer on sites, and are taking on a proactive approach to make sure that their employees like yourself are safe makes it sound very promising for the job site. So thanks for sharing that. When we did our announcement about diversity in the workplace and the important roles that both women and men play in diversifying the workforce, I had met Tommy, and I'm probably going to hopefully not butcher his last name, 𝗏𝗏𝘀𝗏. I wrote it down.
Yeah, that was
Tommy
actually really good.
And I was, really blown away by him sharing the personal story of bringing his daughters to a Build a Dream event and seeing his daughters being inspired by some of the female role models they met. And he spoke from the lens of a father as well as a carpenter, and talked about the important role parents play in influencing their daughters to pursue the skilled trades and to encourage them. And that's one of our biggest goals, is to bring families to the table so that they are a strong influence on their daughters' career choices, and they are supportive when their daughters decide to go into these fields. What role did your parents play in encouraging you and supporting you in the construction industry? And what advice do you have for parents that are tuning in that are struggling or don't know how to support their daughter in pursuing different pathways?
So I've been really lucky. My parents kind of supported me. They kind of said, whatever you put your mind to, we're going to support you no matter what. Well, like I said, I was really stuck in my journalism lens, I guess you could say. And my mom actually was the one who really, really pushed me to come to this Build a Dream event in 2016. So
Yay,
I actually remember being
Mom!
at this event. I remember being at this event and being like, I just want to write for a living, and being here and being like, oh, this is cool, but it's not what I want to do, because I was so stubborn. And then actually I was really lucky that when I went again, seeing the trades this time, I went with my dad, and so he's kind of been there with me on this journey of me discovering the trades. And it's been really special for me to kind of share my successes with my parents. So with my dad, like, it was really cute the other day. He's gonna kill me for saying this, but
we won't tell him, Delaney, that you said it.
He's totally watching right now. But he showed up to my job site to bring me lunch. Because he works in manufacturing, and his company is shut down due to COVID-19. So he came to lunch, or to bring me lunch at work. And it was funny. I kind of look over, and he's standing there taking pictures of me like a proud father. He was sitting there taking pictures. He was so proud to see me at work. And that was such a huge moment for me, because it was, he lights up when he kind of sees me in that position. And that kind of support is just unbelievable, because it really kind of, I'm making them proud. It's a huge thing for me. But definitely, like, any advice to parents, push your children to kind of explore everything. I know I'm stubborn, but don't let them, kind of box in on one thing and one thing only. And that was something that I'm really thankful for my mom for dragging me to the Build a Dream event in 2016, because I did kind of open my eyes a bit in that event, and I did kind of expand my horizons. So definitely kind of throwing out different non-traditional career options to your children is huge. Truthfully, I didn't really know about trades growing up. I just kind of, there's certain jobs that are idolized, doctor, lawyer, teacher, and that's kind of your basic staples. And that's, you ask many kids, what do they want to be when they grow up? Doctor, lawyer, teacher. And so kind of and don't get me wrong, those are great jobs. And if that's what you want to do, if that's your passion, 100% follow it. But I want parents to encourage, and anyone really, look at, okay, electrician, carpenter, plumber, you kind of open yourself to these experiences and open yourself to kind of see whatever. And that's definitely kind of the biggest advice, is just explore different routes. Never stop kind of like seeing what's on the horizon.
Well, Delaney, you are just such a pleasure to speak to, and such a phenomenal advocate for the work Build a Dream does for the construction industry. And once this is all said and done, I can't wait for our organization to travel with you, and for us to influence other communities together, and be a voice of change. And I remember the minister saying to us, could we take Delaney across Canada and show her to every community that we're trying to encourage more women to go into the trades? And I'm sure I could speak on behalf of a lot of the people tuning in, just how inspiring you are, how well-spoken, and your future is so bright. And I'm just so glad Build a Dream can play a small role in the beautiful future that you have ahead of you. And I look forward to following your career path and touching base with you on, every couple of weeks. I love when you give me updates or when you check in, because it really empowers me and the team to do more at Build a Dream. And I know I mentioned and asked you to speak on one of the panels for our digital conference. It's going to be our first home edition. And today's such a great example of just the power your voice has to inspire others to consider this pathway. And I just look forward to so many messages and the change that you're going to make. So Delaney, on behalf of the Dream Team and everyone tuning in, thank you for coming on Facebook Live for the first time after a long week at work in industry. I know you're really tired and you haven't had much time off, but this is exactly why we need more women like you, because not only are you committed to your job, but you're committed to the community. And I'm just so thankful and blessed to know someone like you, Delaney.
Thank you so much for having me. Honestly, every time I'm able to share my story, and it kind of gives me that hope that, you know, maybe I'm inspiring a young Delaney out there to pursue the trades. And that is, if I can touch just one person's life, it makes it all worth it in the end. You know, it makes the hard weeks, you know, the 40 hours that I just put in this week, you know, it makes it all worth it for me. And that's, you know, that's better than any type of payment that I could ever receive.
Amazing. Well, you're going to teach Adam a few skills when he can start picking up a tool or two, because unfortunately his mom can't teach him. But with that, I just want to give a huge shout out to the Carpenters Union, Local 494, Sean, Brandon, and Tommy for everything you've done for our organization. And for those that are tuning in and have questions about the construction industry, I can't express enough what an amazing union and team they are. The amount they invest in not just our organization, but in supporting high school students and getting a placement during the Ontario Youth Apprenticeship Program, the amount of work that they support other organizations with, and just how truly passionate everyone is at the union about the construction industry and the Windsor-Essex community. So just a special shout out and a heartfelt thank you to the Carpenters Union for all your work, and especially during this time of crisis, for everything that you're doing for our community. And Delaney, I'm so glad to hear that your parents were tuning in, because I'm sure that they're just as proud, probably even more proud of you than I am. And to Delaney's parents, you have a gem of a daughter, and so glad that I had the chance to feature her on Facebook Live. So thank you all for tuning in. That wraps up our first week of Facebook Live episodes. Tune in next week, because we do have some really amazing guests. We have a full lineup all week long with different community leaders that are going to talk about the industry, the response to COVID-19, and the career that they're pursuing, and what advice they have for everyone tuning in. So continue on following Build a Dream, and can't wait to share our Dare to Dream podcast with all of you, so that you can hear more inspirational stories like Delaney that are readily available for you to download. So thank you all, and I hope everyone has a beautiful, safe, and healthy weekend. And if you can stay home, please stay home. We have the opportunity to flatten the curve in our local area, and to not put the burden and stress on the healthcare system and on those that have to actually put their lives at risk for all of us. So please stay at home, even if it's beautiful out. Stay home, stay safe. Delaney, I know you have to go to work, so thank you for what you're doing, and have a great weekend. And I'm sure you and I will touch base to record the podcast over the next few days.
Sounds good. I can't wait. I'm looking forward to it.
Okay, me too. Okay. Bye, everybody.
Bye.